펜실베니아대 워튼 경영대학원 학생들과 두 분의 CEO를 모시고 대화의 장을 마련해 보겠습니다. 두 분의 초대 손님을 소개하죠. 아마존닷컴의 제프 베조스.
I talk about obsessing over customers instead of competitors.
그리고 렌즈앤드의 데이빗 다이어.
I describe myself to a lot of people as more of a workhorse than a show horse.
인터넷 쇼핑 세계의 혁명가인 두 CEO의 이야기를 들어보죠.
Exclusive national funding for this program is provided by A.T. Kearney, a global management consulting firm helping businesses achieve results with capabilities in strategy, operations, and technology. A.T. Kearney, right there with you.
심사숙녀 여러분, 그리고 펜실베니아대 워튼 경영대학원 학생 여러분, CNN의 상임 분석가 제프 그린필드입니다.
Thank you. Very good. Thank you. Welcome to CEO Exchange. If you haven't done it, you probably have a friend who has, and if you've done it, chances are you're going to want to do it again. And of course, I'm talking about online shopping. My guests tonight are e-commerce pioneers. They are heralds on the journey from retail to e-tail. Jeff Bezos, founder and CEO of Amazon.com, the Internet Goliath, and since we have a Goliath, we have a David. David Dyer, CEO of Land's End. Now, 5 years ago, most of us probably didn't know what the Internet was, and as far as a revolution in retailing, you got to be kidding. Well, nobody's laughing now. Land's End was one of the best-known catalog companies when it went online in 1995, and it was a tough start. Let me show you how tough. The first-year annual online sales, $160 annual total. Today, e-commerce makes up fully 10% of their sales, and Land's End CEO David Dyer has been repositioning the nation's number one clothing catalog company, making it the number one online apparel site. And how he did it, what lies ahead for e-tailing in the 21st century, is at the heart of this program. And we'll meet Dave Dyer in a few minutes. In 1994, back in the prehistoric era of e-commerce, Bezos surfed the web and he saw the future. He started by selling books online, amassing multi-billion-dollar wealth within 3 years. Faster, by the way, than Bill Gates or Jim Clark. And by the way, he's done it without ever making a profit. And we'll talk about that. Amazon.com has grown from selling books to selling just about everything else, making Amazon.com the anchor store of the web.
I bought this on Amazon.com auctions. I saw it, I thought it was incredibly cool, and so I bought it and I set it up here in the lobby.
38세인 베조스는 여전히 자신이 거둔 성공의 아이처럼 기뻐하는 모습을 보입니다. 5년도 채 안 돼 그는 거대한 소매시장을 설립했고 그 시장 가치는 한때 시어스, K마트, JC페니, 니만 마커스, 삭스보다 더 컸습니다. 한때 우주비행사가 꿈이었던 어린 소녀는 이제 사이버 공간에서 기업을 키워나가고 있죠.
Nobody in this company, least of all me, expected it. I'm the most surprised person on the planet.
베조스는 언제나 세계에서 가장 큰 아마존 강처럼 커다란 기업을 꿈꾸었습니다. 그의 목표는 세계 최대의 서점입니다. 기업이 내세우는 표어도 최대 품목을 구비하자는 거죠. 장난감, 전자제품, 기계, 경매 등 그 종류도 다양합니다. 베조스는 텍사스에 있는 할아버지의 농장에서 자신감을 배웠습니다. 가축 돌보는 일에서부터 풍차 고치는 일까지 모든 것을 했죠. 전자공학과 컴퓨터공학을 전공했던 프린스턴 대학을 최우수 성적으로 졸업한 베조스는 다른 80년대 후반의 젊은이들처럼 월스트리트로 진출했습니다. 그러나 1994년 어느 날 인터넷이란 어마어마한 세계를 깨닫게 된 그는 뉴욕을 떠나 결혼한 지 7년이 된 아내 맥킨지와 함께 시애틀의 하이테크 천국으로 왔습니다.
We worked there in that garage until there were about 4 or 5 people, and then we moved into a real office, which was a tiny little office on the second floor of a color tile building here in Seattle.
그 이후로 아마존은 놀라운 속도로 성장했고 이제는 활발한 배급 센터를 중심으로 1년에 10억 불 이상의 제품을 배송하고 있죠.
There was a time where you'd be able to play basketball on our, in part of our warehouse space if we didn't have any books or anything there.
아마존은 그 수백만 평방미터에 이르는 어마어마한 8개의 배급센터를 더 지었고 1,600만 명의 소비자들에게 더 좋은 서비스를 제공할 수 있게 됐습니다. 소비자 수는 6개월마다 배로 뛰어올랐죠. 그러나 창립 이후로 아마존은 적자에 시달렸습니다. 총 수입은 증가했지만 손해는 갈수록 더 커졌습니다. 밀레니엄이 다가오자 포기하는 투자자들은 나타났죠. 분석가들은 아마존 주식의 평가액을 낮췄고 주가는 몇 달 만에 절반 이상 떨어지고 말았습니다.
I think they're building probably what will be one of the dominant retail franchises in the U.S. 5 or 10 years from now. But I think short-term investors have lost their patience, and I know to some degree I have.
애매모호한 입장을 취하는 사람들도 있지만 베조스를 믿는 사람들은 많습니다. 일주일 중 60시간을 일한 뒤에도 여전히 제프 베조스는 계단을 이용할 만큼 열정적이니까요.
1/3 of all the people who buy online buy at Amazon.com. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming Time Magazine's 1999 Person of the Year, Jeff Bezos. Have a seat. You know, in all of the movies I used to see as a kid about inventors, there was always a foreshadowing scene. You know, a kid would be reading in the dark by candlelight, the candle would go out, and he'd say, if only there was a way to have light at night. And then the mother would say, Tom Edison, get in the bed. So my question to you is, was there such a moment for you? Was there a moment early in your life when at some sense you had a sense that you wanted to build something really remarkable?
You know, I was a tinkerer. I was always building little things, burglar alarms in the house, none of which were actually lethal for any of my family. I was building, solar cookers out of umbrellas as a little kid, and you never wanted to eat any of the food cooked on them unless you really appreciate, salmonella or trichinosis or whatever.
Did you really at age 3 take a screwdriver and try to turn your crib into a bed?
My mother claims that is true. So she claims that she requested that I requested to move out of the crib into a bed, and she said, no, you're not old enough. And so she came in my room and found me disassembling my crib and decided I was old enough.
There's one other part of the mythology, and I don't mean that to mean it's false, but it's a story often told of you that you are so overwhelmed by your life that you carry a camera almost everywhere to record it. How true is this?
Well, it's true that I carry a camera everywhere, and the reason is I want to have a chance someday of reconstructing my life, and I don't have the energy at the end of the day to keep a written journal.
How much do you... You're not kidding.
No.
Well, listen, we said no flash photography. Why don't you take a picture of our audience?
All right, audience.
Wave, smile.
Smile!
There we go.
All right.
That'll be a good keepsake. Thank you.
Also might be auctioned on eBay for a hefty price.
Oh, no, Amazon.com auctions.
We're going to get into that too. You are a successful young man at a hedge fund in New York. You're doing very well. There's a 6-figure bonus ahead of you. So you read this figure, gee, web use is growing, and you suddenly say, okay, I'm going to quit my job, drive across the country, and start a company whose exact nature I don't know what it is.
Sounds a little crazy, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, the internet was growing very rapidly. That was very clear. Things that are growing exponentially today are invisible and tomorrow are everywhere. And I was looking for the right framework in which to make the decision. And it was actually a really easy decision once I found the framework.
But this is the part I don't get. I understand how you can see a lot of people are going to be using the web. But you got from that to the point, I'll bet you can sell things on the web. Now, that's a leap that I think doesn't logically follow from the fact that a lot of people are going to be using the web.
Well, I didn't think it was a certainty. I didn't think it would work for sure. In fact, all the seed money for Amazon.com came from my family, and I told them that I thought there was a 70% chance that it would not work and that they would lose their investment. I was also in part because I wanted to make sure I could come home for Thanksgiving dinner, But
how did you come up with the notion I can sell something on the web and that something is going to be books?
Well, actually, books was an interesting area because it was underserved for mail order. There was, there's no way to have enough titles in a paper catalog. The catalog's worth, 10 New York City phone books. Mm-hmm. So the idea was, with the infinite shelf space that the internet has, you could have an online bookstore with true universal selection.
I want to ask you one more question about the birth of this and then move to the present. And that is, you knew almost as soon as Amazon.com went up that it was going to work. You had not any doubt.
Yeah, I had all kinds of doubt before it went live. And I remember the day before we went live, we all looked at each other and we were looking at this little 400 square foot warehouse. That's about the size of a one-car garage that we had built. And I remember one of the developers saying to me, I don't know if this is incredibly optimistic or hopelessly pathetic. And we had no idea. But in the first 30 days, we had orders from all 50 states and 45 different countries. And we looked at each other and we said, we know customers want this thing now. Knowing that, the rest of it was about execution.
I remember a story about Bill and Hillary Clinton the night before the election when they realized they were going to win. They looked at each other and laughed. Have there been times when you and Mackenzie, your wife, just look at each other sometimes and say, all right, who's been smoking what? This is not possible.
Well, certainly, I think that's true. I mean, I laugh so frequently that you wouldn't be able to find me laughing and discern that from the noise of the other laughter. But the real story, I'm going to write a book someday, the title of which may be Lucky, because we were in the right place at the right time. We've had, to have what has happened happen, you have to have all the planets aligned. Even the things that should have been mistakes turned out to be the right thing to do. Like, for example, early on we got all sorts of advice from people not to launch with 1 million titles. We wanted to launch with 1.1 million titles because we really thought people would want to find the most obscure things. And people who knew more about the book industry said, don't do that because it's so hard to source and supply the titles after about the 300,000th bestseller. Launch with 300,000 and every month add 50,000. Work up to 1 million. And we disregarded that advice through naivete. It turned out after we launched, those people were right. It was incredibly hard to fulfill the promise that we had made to customers. We did do it through sort of sheer force of will and blood, sweat, and tears. But it probably, in sort of an operational logistics sense, it would have been more sensible to do what they had said. But what really happened is that very obscure sort of long tail of the odd product is what drove our word of mouth and what we became well known for.
You have moved from a bookseller to what some people have described as a clear lunge toward world domination by selling everything. Well, it's been pointed out, Jeffrey. But the question is, if people stop thinking of you as Amazon.com, the bookseller, or the book and CD seller, and Amazon.com, the store, don't you run the risk of weakening your brand?
No, and let me tell you why. Brands are very interesting things, and a brand for a company is like a reputation for a person. What we want our brand to stand for, and it drives every decision we make, is customer obsession, starting with the customer and working backwards, figuring out what their needs are and figuring out how to give it to them. If your brand gets known for that, it allows you to do a bunch of things.
I can see that, but you're into so many different areas now where other people have some prior claims. I mean, you do auctions, as you pointed out, but eBay's pretty well known for doing auctions. If you try to sell apparel, for instance, well, the fellow coming out here in a few minutes, David Dyer, Land's End, they've got a pretty good head start.
Let me tell you, landsend.com is going to be extremely successful, in my opinion. I think all these companies, I think eBay is going to continue to be fabulously successful. That is fine. I think one of the underlying myths of the internet, by the way, is that there are only going to be a few winners.
Talk about one issue that you may have heard a time or two, and we'll come back to it, which is how can you keep doing this without making money? I mean, call me madcap.
You
here,
think
Jeffrey.
maybe I've heard this
I have
question
a hunch.
before? We've heard this question. We are a famously unprofitable company, and that is not an accident. And this isn't novel. We didn't invent this. CNN invested for a long time before CNN was profitable. So did USA Today. What's unusual about our investment is just the scale of it.
But you would agree that it can't go on indefinitely. At some point you have to make money.
There's no new math here.
Okay. One last thing before we bring out our next guest and move on, and that has to do with how do you, in terms of your own time, with all the demands on it, when do you think?
In the shower. I really do. It's amazing to me. In fact, I've started to think about taking 2 showers a day just to get more thinking.
Jeffrey, we're going to hear a lot more from you later in the program because, as I'm telling the audience now, Jeff will be back in a few moments as he and our next guest tackle some of the thornier questions about retailing in the age of the web. Jeff Bezos, thanks you very much. See you in a few minutes. Our next guest is residing over a challenging transition. How do you make and keep the #1 apparel catalog company at the top of the online market? And how do you do that while keeping this big business true to its small town values?
Turn around, models. Let everyone see them.
You guys did a good job. Those products look great, huh?
데이빗 다이어가 1998년 렌즈엔드로 돌아왔을 때 렌즈엔드는 개조가 필요한 회사였습니다.
You always got to be better. You always got to run fast to stay ahead of everybody else.
We've always held on to the quality and the value and the service for the customer, but I think what was missing was having style.
부동사로 오래 일했던 다이어는 오래전부터 좋아했던 낭만적인 소매업의 세계에서 직업을 갖게 됐습니다.
I love selling, and I really love to be sold, and I love when you have great products and you can tell the customer about them and make the customer a friend. It's just always been kind of a honorable craft to me, and I just have enjoyed every bit of it.
렌즈엔드는 갑작스럽게 시작된 회사입니다. 37년 전 전직 광고 작가이자 선원에 의해 시작되었던 렌즈엔드는 카탈로그 영업 회사였습니다. 렌즈엔드는 1986년 상장되었고 작년 판매액이 13억 7천만 달러를 기록했죠. 렌즈엔드의 본사가 있는 곳은 위스콘신주의 중심인 나지빌이라는 작은 마을입니다. 명절 때가 되면 렌즈엔드는 인근 치즈 공장의 인력까지 빌려 일을 하죠. 렌즈엔드의 사업 규모는 어마어마합니다. 전자상 거래라는 광대한 바다에 뛰어든 렌즈엔드는 온라인 판매에서 1위를 차지했고 그 판매량도 렌즈엔드 전체 판매량의 10%나 되죠.
There is a good question about whether you will feel comfortable buying, all of your apparel online because you can't touch and feel it. But, they're a cataloger. The returns process is just as easy. It's not different from buying in the catalog.
무엇보다도 렌즈엔드의 자랑은 서비스입니다. 주문이 들어오면 제품을 골라 확인한 다음 포장되어 바로 다음 날 배송이 되죠.
There's going to be really a very interesting meeting this morning.
4,000명이 넘는 직원을 거느리고 있는 데이빗 다이어는 남부 출신으로 그에겐 영업의 피가 흘렀습니다. 어머니는 캐주얼 코너의 영업사원이었고 아버지는 시어지의 바이어였습니다.
I kind of grew up around it in high school. I remember reading Women's Wear Daily every day in our home, so it's been something that's just been kind of natural to me. I started working at a department store when I was 16, and I loved it. I couldn't wait for school to be over so I could go to work.
처음부터 다이어의 목표는 높았습니다. 그는 17년을 플로리다에 있는 버다인 백화점에서 보냈고 1989년 렌즈엔드로 와 가구 카탈로그인 커밍홈의 일을 맡았죠. 또 잠깐 남부지방의 홈쇼핑 방송에서 일하다 다시 1998년 다지빌의 렌즈엔드로 돌아왔습니다. 렌즈엔드의 사정은 나빴습니다. 판매량은 저조했고 주가는 바닥을 기고 있었기 때문에 어쩔 수 없이 다이어는 임금을 10% 인하해야 했죠. 결국 이런 노력은 결실을 거둬서 판매가 늘어났지만 아직도 할 일은 많습니다. 데이빗 다이어는 20년 동안 조종사했던 연륜을 이용해서 급속도로 변하고 있는 거친 경제사회를 뚫고 렌즈엔드를 이끌어 나갈 겁니다.
Decades before the web was invented, the mail-order catalog was a virtual store. And the question now is whether the web threatens the survival of these companies or whether their years of experience will give them a powerful edge. Let's talk about that. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the CEO of America's #1 clothing catalog company, David Dyer of Land's End. Welcome.
Thank you.
Nice blazer. Any chance?
Land's End.
All right.
Everything.
One question that has been bothering me for years. What is the apostrophe doing at the end of the S in Land's End when it should be after the D? There's only one land that this is the end of, right?
Actually, it was a printer's mistake. I guess back in 1967, when they first launched the catalog, the apostrophe was put in the wrong place, and when it came back, it was too expensive to reprint. So that's how we wind up with that one in the wrong place.
Let me just take you back, as I did with Jeffrey. I'm never quite sure when it occurs to a young person, I'd like to run a company. Was this early in your life or later on?
I came from a family of retailers. I can remember walking through a department store with my father once, and it was kind of back in the old days when they had the NCR registers. They went cha-ching, and he said $35 transaction, and I went through and I counted all these $35 as I listened to the registers ring. I said, is this a great business or what?
You were lured by the sound of a cash register.
Yeah, I loved it.
In terms of making a career, it never occurred to you that you'd like to be an adventurer, Indiana Jones, travel the world?
Well, I think that is terrific about retailing. I think that it's almost Marco Polo, Silk Road's China ships. It's going out into the world and finding a great product and merchandising it, marketing it, bringing it home to your customers, and actually seeing somebody use it. It's just terrific. I mean, it's an unbelievable feeling when you see the complete cycle.
Let's take you back to when you hooked up with Lands' End, because it's a journey that reverses the last 40 or 50 years of American life, where people leave the snow belt for the sun belt. Here you are in Florida. Good job with a major, I guess the biggest department store chain in Florida, right?
That's correct.
So what beckons you to Dodgeville, Wisconsin, 11 years ago, and Lands' End?
I've always kind of liked to take some risk in my life, and I guess this was probably one. I was offered the job to be president of a major department store chain, and at the same time, Lands' End had contacted me and had talked about some startup businesses they wanted to do. So I guess it was one of those things. My wife and I talked about it. She said, you've always wanted to do this. You've always wanted to be in direct marketing. Take a chance. Have fun.
You go to Lands' End and you move very quickly up the ladder into a senior management position. And then in 1994, you leave to take over the Home Shopping Network. That's a pretty big leap. What possessed you to do that?
Well, I learned a lot of things from home shopping. First, I learned a lot about electronic retailing. And I guess as I went through this, I started thinking about the future of retailing and was very convinced that electronic retailing was going to be the future. There's a lot of things that I learned from that experience, and a lot of their success today is because of some of the things that we laid.
Was there any specific lesson in terms about trying to change a corporate culture, and at what speed you can do that you came out and said, maybe, and if I get the next thing I get my hands on, I'm going to pick up something from this?
I think so. I think that one of the big lessons is don't change everything at once. And if you change too much too quickly, you don't really understand the cause and effect. And I think that was a great lesson from home shopping. And I think as I came into Lands' End, I certainly had a better perspective and treated the problems with more balance.
Do you ever think literally, okay, I remember what happened at home shopping, I'm going to handle this situation differently? Is it that conscious of decision making, or is it sort of more?
I think it's more kind of subtle. Yes, I do think about that, and yes, when we have had discussions at Lands' End, I have told people that story, and I have pulled back from some of the things that we wanted to do. But any time that you're in a company in transition, you've got to react, and you've got to move forward, and I think in today, speed counts.
Lands' End says, come back to Dodgeville as CEO.
Wow.
Now, you're talking about it. We're talking about a company founded by a legend, Mr. Comer,
Gary Comer,
who, for a long time, said, "I'm not going to be involved in this company. I'm going to take my yacht, sail it around the world, but I'm still the majority shareholder." And at this point, he's gone through 3 CEOs in about 5 or 6 years, and he has what is known as a board that is one of the more. It's been described by others as fairly insular. It's his baby. My question is, did you feel a little like a manager being hired by George Steinbrenner?
No, not at all. One of the things that I can tell you is Gary is a terrific chairman of the board and is very active as a board member. When it comes to the day-to-day operations of the company, it is left to management. However, I think that when you when the board sees something happening in a company, today no more than ever, the board has, two duties, the duty of loyalty and the duty of care.
So you come back to Dodgeville, which is a place, it's a small town west of Madison, Wisconsin.
It's a terrific town.
Right. But
3,803 now that my family has moved in.
But one of the first things you have to do on your return is impose the first layoffs, I think, in the company's history. Here's the new CEO. Guess what? 10% of the workforce gone. How do you deal with it?
I will tell you that it was one of the toughest decisions that I have ever had to make, and I think for a couple of reasons. At Lands' End it's family. I mean, it is a very wonderful culture to be a part of, and it was a very tough thing to do. And I think that the one thing that I can say to anybody that has to go through it is treat people with dignity and respect, treat them as family, and treat them as well as you can for those who are leaving and for those who are staying.
Now, when you come back to Lands' End, it's already begun its nascent life on the web. But how much did you think that was going to be a critical part of what you had to do to make that transition?
That was really the reason that I did come back. I couldn't think of any company in the U.S., really, that was better positioned to take advantage of e-commerce. Lands' End was a company that had, we think there's really three things that you need to be successful in e-commerce. First, a trusted brand, and not just a well-recognized brand, but one that has the customer trust, a trust relationship with the customer. The second thing that I think you need is proprietary product with enough margin in it to make a profit. And the third thing is I think that you need the distribution and technology infrastructure to support direct-to-consumer. Lands' End had all three of those things.
You didn't have a great Christmas this last season, and you said, we cut back a little on the catalogs, and that meant we didn't make full communication with the customer. You're not going to abandon the catalog anytime soon?
No, I think the catalog will always be a part of our business. One of the things that happens when we mail a catalog in home, we see a jump in internet sales. Now the question is, can you mail them a postcard? Yeah. Can you mail them a 4-page brochure?
And
can you mail them a 15-page catalog? And we're doing a lot of tests to determine that right now.
Since you are a catalog company that has moved on to the web,
we're a global direct marketer.
Fine. You were a catalog company.
We were a catalog company. All right,
and since Amazon.com began on the web with no catalogs and no stores, we thought it would be interesting to bring Jeff Bezos back and have you and Jeff talk a little bit about what may be, if not competing, maybe different views of this. So please first let us thank David for joining us. Jeffrey, come on back. Let me offer you a hypothetical. 6 months from now, you pick up a trade paper and you read that Bezos has decided to do Amazon.apparel.com.
He wouldn't want to be in a profitable business, I don't think. Thank you.
We're going to get to that issue again in a while. But what I mean is, in this sense, is your head start as a catalog company a critical element in your conviction that you would crush him like a bug if he tried to do this?
I think it's a big, wide open area out there, and I think that, yes, we've had somewhat of a head start because of our brand recognition, our relationship with our customer, our, proprietary product. You can only get Lands' End product at Lands' End. And we have a terrific distribution infrastructure. I think we pick, packet, ship it as efficiently and as fast as anyone in the business. And that really is one of our core assets. But, I think that one of the things that we really look at is it's not so much customer service that makes a difference. It's building a relationship with the customer. We don't call a customer until we've sold them more than once. We have a feeling that anybody can sell anybody anything once.
But let me shift to a different kind of question that I think is in the same area. You want Earth's biggest store. Sound familiar?
Earth's biggest selection.
Sorry, Earth's biggest selection. Well, there's a company, you may have heard about this company. I think it's called Walmart. Pretty well branded.
Walmart. Yeah, oh, yeah.
Pretty well branded?
Right.
They make a profit too.
Aren't they based in Arkansas?
Yeah, that's right. A little company. Right. Now, if somebody's going to sell everything to everybody, doesn't Walmart, as they intend to come into this website business, don't they come in with an awfully big advantage? Like, gee, where do I go to buy stuff? Everything. I go to Walmart.
Well, I have to refer you back to my prior comment, which is I think that there are going to be lots of winners here. But I also will say that, Amazon.com, for a long time, people have been predicting our imminent demise due to larger, better funded, better brand named competitors. We've been Amazon.toast, right. Amazon.bomb, right. And my personal favorite, Amazon.org, because clearly we're a not-for-profit company. And our response to this competition, we've always had intense competition. And it's good, that's the way this works, that's why everybody gets better. But our response to competition is always to get even more heads down, focused on the customer. I ask folks at Amazon.com to wake up terrified every morning, sheets drenched in sweat, but to be very precise about what it is they're afraid of.
Not you.
They should not be, I'm too goofy to be afraid of, but they should be afraid of our customers, not our competitors, because it's our customers, those are the folks with whom we have a relationship. And if we stay heads down, focused on our customers, and our competitors stay focused on us, that's a great position to be in.
I want to pause for a moment and introduce the first of a series of questions that are going to be posed and have been posed by the faculty at the Wharton School. This one comes from David Schmidtlein, who is chair of the marketing department.
One of the challenges that companies face is that customers have an inclination to try a product once or twice or to try out a new service, but not to keep coming back, not to make the product a habit. What do your organizations need to do to manage repeat business?
The best way to get repeat business is to exceed expectations of the customer the first time. It's that simple. It's not complicated.
No.
It's in theory. It's hard in practice.
But here's
to
what
execute at a level that really exceeds expectations of customers.
Let me go and get a somewhat broader perspective of retailing to e-tailing. Were there certain fallacies that you thought had been embedded into certain concepts about e-tailing on the web? There were certain assumptions that proved not to be true?
Well, I think that one of the things that people certainly who had catalog businesses thought is you just put a catalog online and it's going to sell. There's ways that you need to present merchandise in a virtual space much differently than you would in a catalog. So if there's anything, it's letting each business assume its own destiny. You can't manage two different organizations. You can't have an internet organization over here doing one thing and another organization over on the other side of the room doing something else. We're one company. We serve the customer together through multiple channels, and however they want to shop with us is fine.
When you look back on the early days, can you look back and see certain assumptions that you made that weren't right, that didn't work out, that you said, God, I don't know how we thought about that one?
Well, our assumption, if you look at our original business plan, the biggest surprise is that we expected the business to grow very, very, very slowly. And in fact, we expected to build a small, profitable company, and what we actually built is a large, unprofitable company.
Is there any doubt in either of your minds? I'm sure you both agree that you will survive and the other will survive, but are we headed for a shakeout? I mean, is there inevitably going to be a time, you say there'll be many winners, isn't it also fair to say there are going to be a lot of losers?
First of all, I wouldn't even agree that necessarily we're going to survive. So, look at the history of pioneers. It's not that good. There are a lot of examples of companies that look like they couldn't fail, and then they're gone.
Yes, so in one recent magazine piece described you as the possible Atari of your
exactly.
business.
Atari. How about VisiCorp? They made VisiCalc, which preceded Lotus, and the spreadsheet and Hayes Modem. How could Hayes Modem have so much trouble in the fastest growing modem market of all time when at one point their brand name was synonymous with modems? So the only thing that saves a company from that, in my opinion, is staying focused obsessively on the customer. And let me assure you that if we do fail, if we don't become a lasting company from the leadership position we have today, we will have nobody to blame but ourselves.
I want to shift gears here. Nobody can talk about anything web-related without talking about the craze surrounding the stocks. Now, you're in a company that makes money.
Yes.
Your stock's gone through transition. I think that's the nice
That's a good word.
Right? Now, when you look when you look across the table and you see this young man, never made a dime, do you ever think to yourself, what planet is this happening on?
You know, I guess I'll let the market or the open marketplace determine the value. But the one thing I do feel is there's always value in being first and being the best in a category. And I think that the experience that they've created at Amazon.com is much better than one of the big box bookstores. As a matter of fact, I'm a customer. I think it's a terrific experience. You're welcome. Buy some Lambs in too. 1-800. Okay.
But if I may be serious for a moment, if there were to be a downturn, if there were to be a recession, aren't you at least headed for a Wile E. Coyote-sized fall?
Well, I think what you can do, we do proceed adaptively, not blindly. So if market conditions change, if things change, of course, we would change our strategy to adapt to that.
Does this make sense to you? Does this, as you hear Jeffrey talking about this, could Land's End work that way?
Well, you know, I think yes, in some respects. You know, Warren Buffett said that in the short term, the market votes, in the long term, it weighs. We feel that it's going to weigh over time towards profits, so we've decided to start right now. Now, there's something on our balance that's not reflected at all on our balance sheet. You know, all this marketing and brand awareness that a lot of e-commerce companies are doing are to build a customer file. Land's End has a 29 million name customer file, over 10 million of which have bought from us in the last 3 years. Now, if you hear from internet companies anywhere from $20 to $100 a name, I mean, that's an asset that's not valued at all on our balance sheet, and it's certainly an asset that a lot of e-commerce companies are spending mightily to create.
We want to hear another question posed by a member of the faculty here at Wharton School. This one comes from Michael Useem. He's director of the Wharton Center for Leadership and Change Management.
David and Jeff, you're facing a very constitutionally skeptical crowd of stock analysts, money managers, venture capitalists. What specifically have you done? What will you do to ensure they have confidence in you and your plans for the future?
And I want to start with you, David, because you had to change, as I understand it, a certain reticence on the part of Land's End to actually talk with Wall Street a lot.
Well, since I've been back, we have had conference calls with every earnings release. I mean, we do our best to give the marketplace enough information and enough understanding about our company and our business model to make intelligent investing decisions. Same time, we don't give guidance in terms of earnings or sales. And that's one of the things that we have chosen not to do, but we have been much more open with the marketplace than we have been in the past.
What do you do when the kind of that amazing rush that surrounded Amazon.com for the first several years is replaced by we're not quite sure anymore. We need a few more answers about when we're going to start seeing a turnaround?
Well, what we do is we try to share as much information as we can with people, but at the same time, it's not our job to convince people of our strategy, that our strategy is correct. It's our job to articulate it clearly so that they understand it. And then they get to self-select as to whether they believe in it.
But isn't it a problem if your articulation is not accepted by the Wall Street community?
Well, you have to understand there are thousands and thousands of investors, and as I heard somebody say, you can hold a rock concert or you can hold a ballet, and both can be successful. But don't hold a rock concert and advertise it as a ballet. People are going to be unhappy with that.
Yes, I can see that.
And so what we're trying to do is have a particular strategy and let the people self-select.
I want to shift gears to one last time before we turn to the audience, and this has to do with what may be an unfairly broad question, and let you whittle it down. You know the story of the Patent Office 100 years ago, where the Patent Office guy said we should shut it down because everything has been invented?
Right.
Well, I'm sure there are some people out there who say...
A true visionary.
A true visionary. I'm sure there are some folks out in this audience today who are saying, it's too late for me. I'm 22 years old. It's all done. There's not a .com that has not been invented. What could you tell him to encourage him or her that, no, it's not all taken?
Well, I'd say first, focus on the customer. Find out where the customer is and go there. Second, take risk. I mean, I think that for people who want it to be laid out before them and don't take risk, there's really not going to be the opportunity. And that's really the fun of it, is to go out and find an opportunity and try it. And, don't be afraid to fail.
Jeff, this is absolutely day one. This is the first nanosecond after the Big Bang. This is the Cambrian era, when 550 million years ago, when single-celled life first became multi-celled life. And every experiment got done. Okay. And there was a great rate of speciation, and there was also a great rate of extinctions. And that's what you're going to see going forward. But anybody who thinks that all the great internet ideas have been taken already is the head of the patent office.
But I want you to put some specific advice to this audience. If they have an itch that they think they have an idea, as vaguely foreign perhaps as yours, there's something out there that they do, would you really in good conscience tell them, quit, get into your version of the Chevy Blazer and start heading west?
The real advice I would give is make sure that you've worked in a best practices company, a place where you can learn things for 5 or 10 years at a minimum. Once you've done that, believe me, all this stuff is still going to be around. If you don't have that experience, it's just so much easier to fail. When you're 23 or 24, you don't know how little you know. I know I'm a lot dumber now at 36 than I was at 24, and I suspect that by the time you're 65, you must know you know nothing. So you get progressively dumber. Then what you should do is project yourself to age 80 and say, if I go do this risky thing and give up my bonus, am I going to regret it when I'm 80? And I bet you often the answer to that question will be no.
Yes, you call this. You have a name for this.
I have a dork's name
for it. What's the dork's name for this?
Regret minimization framework. So
pretty dorky.
Most regrets, I think, are acts of omission and not commission.
In the current world, where every rule and every foundation seems to be changing, is it easier, do you think, for this generation to take those risks than it was for people of another generation where maybe there was a more hierarchical way to proceed?
When I look at my kids and what they're going to be able to experience, and I watch the way that they have grown up on the computer literate, and I think about it and I project them forward to the future, it's really an exciting time to be alive. I mean, this is like the Industrial Revolution all over again.
Do these people, though, can they succeed following, for instance, your business plan or your business plan?
No. You have to, you cannot.
All his.
No. Seriously, though, you don't want to try to be the next Yahoo. Yahoo's already done that. Me Too business plans usually don't work. There has to be something, some sort of improvement. And it's also intellectually lazy right now with all of this opportunity to do a Me Too business plan. There's so much interesting stuff to be discovered. And the reason that new ideas will work in this kind of environment is just because there's so much green space, so much unserved opportunity.
Okay. We have one more question from the faculty at the Wharton School. This is from David Reebstein, who's a professor of marketing.
Amazon and Land's End started out selling via different mechanisms and selling different types of products. Now, as each expand in how they sell and what they sell, they find themselves being very close to being competitors. So my question is, how do you anticipate who your future competition is going to be, and how do you prepare yourself for that?
David, who do you think's coming at you?
We look at anybody who may want to sell in our space or maybe even spaces we want to get into, we consider as competitors. But again, we look at the best of class. We don't want to look where other people have been. We want to look where people are going.
We don't seek competitors, but we sure tend to find them. The interesting thing, though, is that the competitive framework in this very dynamic environment changes so rapidly that if you base your strategy on what your competitors are doing, your strategy is outdated once a day. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you base your strategy on actual customer needs, what customers really want, then your strategy has a much longer lifetime because the customer needs evolve more slowly.
Okay. In a moment, we're going to turn to some questions from the students here at Wharton School. That is our audience here at the University of Pennsylvania. But first, we want to show you some background on the Wharton School.
1881년 워튼 경영대학원의 탄생은 필라델피아 기업가인 조세 워튼에 의해 이루어졌습니다. 오늘날의 워튼 스쿨은 학생의 4분의 1이 외국 학생이며 여학생이 30%를 차지하고 있죠. 비즈니스 위크지에서는 워튼 스쿨을 지난 6년간 미국의 가장 뛰어난 경영대학원으로 뽑았습니다.
We're back, and it is time to hear from some future MBAs gathered here at the Zellerbach Theater at the Wharton School. Tell us your name and ask your question.
Sure, I'm Bill Westcott, a Wharton partner. And first of all, comment to Jeff. It's been absolutely thrilling and inspiring to see you surf the tsunami of all time, the Internet revolution. And second, a question for both of you. Given your fantastic businesses online, you're serving a clientele that has to have a telephone, a PC, and knowledge of the Internet. What steps do you think should be taken to eliminate this digital divide where you can do good while doing well?
Bill Westcott, first of all, I have to say it's a tremendous coincidence. We haven't seen each other in 20 years. We went to high school together, Miami Palmetto Senior High. Okay. I'm glad to see you still have your hair. I think the digital divide question is a very important one. And in fact, there's some shaky evidence today about whether it's education. People haven't really figured out what is going to be the primary driver of the digital divide. Is it going to be the fact that there's education inequalities in the U.S. and around the world, or is it going to be the cost of the technology? And I think you do have to get to the root cause of the problem. If it's the technology, it's actually a much more soluble problem because the technology gets cheaper every year. So from a technology point of view, I think very rapidly it's going to be fairly easy to make sure people have access. I'm personally worried about the education half of the equation.
Your name and your question?
Hi, Walt Vester, first-year MBA candidate. My question is for Mr. Dyer.
Yep.
Your company's sales growth over the last 3 years has been driven more by your specialty products than by your core apparel products. I'm curious, if you fast forward 5 years from now, what will your company be selling? Will you remake its product line again? That's the first question. The second question is to both of you, privacy on the Internet. Can you make a comment about it?
Well, let me take the second one first. When it comes to Internet privacy first, is we always have an opt-in rather than opt-out. Many companies send out information and send you email without you giving them permission to do so. We always ask the customer to tell us whether they want to be communicated with electronically before we will send them anything, and we certainly don't release their names to anyone else. It is our relationship with our customer, and we protect that trust. Second, in terms of categories, we think that there's a lot of different things that we can do. There's growth in our current categories and apparel. In the children's area, tremendous growth opportunity. We have a business-to-business unit that sells logo merchandise to corporate America. Tremendous growth in that area. We think that there is growth in our home area. We're just scratching the surface there. Home sales last year in the U.S. were $150 billion. We have a very small home business, so obviously that's an area that we can go after and will go after. I'm not sure if we'll go after books.
Mr. Bezos, on the privacy issue, it's one of the wondrous things that if you click on Amazon.com after a few minutes, for a few purchases, you tell us, oh, here's a book you might like.
That's right.
Which means that you know something about me.
That's right.
Isn't there even unconsciously a problem in gathering this kind of information about your customers?
Actually, I'm not sure privacy is the number one fear about online shopping today. It's really turned still around credit card security. Right. People are very worried about that, even though that is a perception issue, not a reality one. But privacy, I believe, is going to be a huge issue in the 21st century. And it's not just the Internet. It is going to be an issue which is going to be driven by technology in all kinds of different aspects of life. And one of the things about privacy is that companies can do things better for people if they know them better. So, it's just like the old, the town store from years gone by. And small towns have never had privacy, of course, because everybody knows everything in a small town, But the merchant would know that you like John Grisham or whatever, so they can do a good job for you. Now, what you have to do is you have to earn the trust of the customer by not ever violating that privacy in any way. If you can earn that trust, then you get permission from the customer to use the knowledge you have about them for their betterment, so that you can help them discover things that they wouldn't have been able to discover before.
Okay. Please.
Hi, my name is Sarah Gilbert. I'm a second-year MB student. My question is for both of you. I know that Webvan has expressed the belief that in the future all deliveries are going to have to be made in a few hours. Is this something that you agree with? And if so, given both of your operations expertise, do you intend to try to go into yourself, build up vans, or contract out with someone else?
Well, Jeffrey, didn't you have a piece of this Cosmo.com that claims they can deliver anything in about a minute and a half?
We haven't announced any such investment.
Well, this has not come out of any pillow talk between you and me, Jeffrey. I mean, we have a scoop here. This won't be on a lake. Are you going to buy a piece of Cosmo.com or not? Come on.
Well, we do own a piece of HomeGrocer.com.
Fine. Do you think? But what about the question? You're going to have to speed up the pace of delivery in this.
So they're going to be, again, as with most things in this space, because it is so big, there are going to be multiple winning strategies. I think it's going to break down into three components. There are going to be companies like Amazon.com that have millions of SKUs delivered the way we deliver things today using UPS and things that UPS will improve and the U.S. Postal Service that will improve. They haven't even started to improve things yet for e-commerce specifically. Then there'll be things like Home Grocer and Webvan that are sort of next day scheduled delivery. And then there'll be things like Cosmo.com that are ad hoc 1 hour delivery. You're going to see all those models flourish, in my opinion.
David, does it matter to your customers? I mean, you have a pretty good reputation for delivering within a day or two. Do you think, is this just a part of our time that people are going to get impatient if they don't get the new pair of chinos in 24 hours? I mean, does anybody really need them delivered in an hour?
Well, we can deliver next day right now.
Right.
And we generally deliver every package within 2 days. We ship via 2-day UPS right now. And we do think it's an issue that we want to look at. We're certainly investigating how we can ship quicker, how we can ship within a time during the day, and it may require association with other companies, and it may require a different strategy that we have. But I think it's different when you're in chinos and knit shirts than in raw chicken.
Yes,
obviously there's a need to be prompt when you're selling chicken and hamburger.
Okay. Before we end, and I'm taking out of this question family and personal for a reason. What are you most proud of in terms of your professional lives? And you may have hours, but I don't. So what? Jeffrey, what are you most proud of?
The thing that I hope and that I would be proud of is if Amazon.com can create a new standard and actually raise the bar for customer service and customer experience. And if whole, new industries look to us and say, gosh, how did they do it? How did they raise that customer service bar?
David?
I think I'm most proud about the Lands' End and the people of Lands' End and leading the company through this transition, which I think is just as important as going from mail order through to the 800 number. It's a company that is based on integrity, has terrific people who work very hard every day to take care of the customer, and I'm just really proud to be part of that team and to be part of the future of that company.
All right. Thank you both. And we've come to the end of our revels, so I want to extend my sincere thanks to all of you for being here today at the Wharton School. It is obvious that these CEOs are cutting roads through this new frontier, but I think what may be a little less obvious is that we're all part of the journey as well. What we do online, the products we buy, the messages we send and receive, our comfort level, or our lack thereof, will define this revolution. My thanks especially go to David Dyer of Land's End, to Jeffrey Bezos of Amazon.com. They are obviously key players on a stage of enormous consequence, and today they were kind enough to grace our stage. We hope this conversation has added something to the world's marketplace of ideas, because that is the business of CEO Exchange. I'm Jeff Greenfield, and thanks for coming. Thanks for watching.
Okay. All right. Remember that process to take something from a blank piece of paper and create an idea, get the fabric down, put it in silhouette, make it okay. We're going to make a lot of improvements to it. We're on probably our third version of going through it. And I think you'll see next year at Christmas time.
I think I can talk to it. Good. There are people at Amazon.com who can. I'm not sure it's healthy, so be careful.
We're in Japan, Germany, and the UK. We went to the UK 9 years ago to promote Facebook. We thought that made it easy, but it really